Hi everyone. On August 5th, the Holy Orthodox Church celebrates the memory of Oswald, the King-martyr of Northumbria. Now Oswald was born in the year 604 to a pagan father who unfortunately left this earth when Oswald was only 12 years old. Now, in those days particularly, whenever there was a change in power or a king reposed or was overthrown, it could be a lot of trouble for the family members. So Oswald took his 6 brothers and his sister, who had also become a saint, into Scotland. It was while he was in Scotland that he was converted, received the Christian faith, and indeed underwent baptism on the Isle of Iona. After this, he began to try to get back into Northumbria because the whole area, which was once fervently Christian, had unfortunately apostatized. And so Oswald took a small force and was met there by King Penda and one other king that really wanted to see his demise. Penda was a very dyed-in-the-wool pagan and would be a real sword in Oswald's side for the entirety of his life. Well, Oswald was concerned about the smallness of the force that he had, and so he took himself to prayer, and that evening no one but St. Columba appeared to him. St. Columba was bright and radiant and seemed to fill the whole room, and he encouraged Oswald and said that your cause is just in this and that the Lord will be with you. Well, Oswald, very much encouraged by this, told the troops what had happened, and they also were encouraged by this, and in fact the ones that were not Christian swore that they would be Christian as soon as the battle was over. So Oswald took a cross and he planted it in the midst of a large area and knelt down before it and asked for God's blessings. And it is said even to this day that area is working miracles where he planted this large cross. Well, he defeated Penda, and after that became a very righteous and beloved king who gave up many, many of his properties to all sorts of people in order to establish monasteries and churches and generally to help in the conversion of his people. There was a bishop who came to see him, and this bishop was Irish, and he came with bearing the name of Aidan. In fact, it was Aidan of Lindisfarne. Now, he is known that way now, but he got this title because he asked for permission to establish an episcopal rule over Lindisfarne. St. Oswald readily agreed to this and was very, very impressed with Aidan and listened often to his instruction. St. Oswald was also someone who was quite generous. In fact, at one time in a post-Paschal celebration, where he had a great dinner, a meal laid out for all the people that were present there, he was stricken because someone came in and said, "You've got a lot of people outside, your subjects who are starving and need food, and they are begging you to help them." So Oswald then had all of the food that was prepared for this Paschal banquet, had it all taken out and distributed to the people there, so that the ones that were at the banquet ended up with nothing. St. Aidan was also there at the time, and he was so completely overwrought with emotion about the fact that Oswald did this, that he took Oswald's hand and he said, "May this hand never wither with age." Well, this was to prove true. Oswald was called yet again into another battle by this same King Penda. Now, Penda was of the Mercians and was again very, very pagan in his mindset and wanted revenge on Oswald for the earlier defeat years earlier. Oswald knew that he was outnumbered, and yet he was always considered brave in battle, but he would not consider fleeing or not fighting. So he went into battle, and in fact, this same King Penda captured Oswald, severed his head and his arms and hands, and took Oswald's head and put it on a pike along with his hands for 1 whole year to dishonor him. Well, fortunately, some of the Christians at the end of that time were able to gather his head and his hands and kept these relics as great prizes of sanctity. Even to this day, Oswald's head and hands can be seen in certain churches in Britain. And in fact, for a long, long time, Oswald's hand was a prized possession where everyone wanted to either venerate it or some kings wanted to steal it and keep it for themselves. It was kept in a long iron cast, and it worked miracles and healings for all who approached it. So Oswald, in the end, got what he truly desired, which was a place in the heavenly court of our Lord Jesus Christ. And yet he's another example of a ruler who was devoted to Jesus Christ, did the best he could for all of his people, and tried to expand the faith as best he could, always understanding that this was his most important effort in this life. So it shows us, particularly in these days, that rulers do have this capacity if they will but turn to the Lord. Wonderful things can then happen. And by his prayers, may we too turn to the Lord so that wonderful things may be happening to us also. Bye-bye.